ProPresenter makes it easy to create and control engaging presentations. And in this video, I'll walk you through everything you need to know to create your first presentation. Now, I'm going to cover a lot of content and probably pretty quickly, but if you miss anything, you can always rewind. Plus, we have individual tutorial videos about all of the different features that I'll cover. Now, in this video, we're going to cover setting up screens, including a stage display, creating and importing presentations like songs and teaching notes, working with media and videos, creating playlists for your events, creating an announcement loop and working with the new announcements layer, and controlling all of your content with ease. Now first we need to understand how ProPresenter actually shows its content. ProPresenter uses multiple layers stacked on top of each other to create the final output. And each of those layers can be controlled independently. This is what helps you create amazing and flexible presentations. Those layers include the video input layer, then above that we have the presentation, media, and slide layers, and then we have the brand new announcements layer, which contains its own media and slide layers inside of it, and then finally the props and messages layer. First, let's take a look at the ProPresenter interface, which is set up in a logical left-to-right workflow, where on the left side we can see all of our libraries and all of our playlists. And below there, you'll see all of the items in the currently selected library or playlist. When we select a presentation, we'll see it in the main presentation area, and we can click on any slides inside that presentation. Those will start playing back, and we'll see them in our main preview area. Below there, you'll see the transport controls, and we have them for our presentation layer, our announcement layer, and for our audio bin. Above here, you'll see buttons to clear out all of the different layers that we talked about earlier. We can clear all of our layers at one time, or we can clear out individual layers. Now, the layers that are currently active get highlighted, so we can see that we have content playing back to our media layer right now, as well as content on our slide layer. And each of those can be cleared independently. So I can clear out my slide layer first, and then I could clear out my media layer after that. Also, we can switch to see a preview of all of the different screens we have set up inside ProPresenter. And then below there, we have our audio bin where we can have different audio playlists and we can see all of the tracks. And then at the bottom, we have our media bin. At the top, you'll see our main toolbar where we have buttons for different views as well as buttons for other features. Now let's set up our screens, including our stage screen. When you first launch ProPresenter, you'll be guided through a process to set up your first audience and stage screens. But we can configure our screens at any time by going to Screens and Configure Screens. Here you'll see all of the audience and stage screens that I've set up. Now these screens can be single outputs, mirrored outputs, a grouping of screens to make one large screen, or edge blended screens. Now audience screens are intended for your audience and where we send our main content out of ProPresenter. And later in this tutorial, I'll show you how to send different layers to different screens. Our stage screens allow you to show relevant information about your presentation like clocks, countdown timers, or what's coming next to those on stage or working behind the scenes. And all of these screens can be set up using different physically connected output devices, or you could send your output over the network via NDI or to other programs on your computer using Siphon, or you can set up screens in advance of connecting to your final outputs using placeholders. Now let's configure what content is shown on our stage screen. Let's go to More and to our Stage Editor. In this editor, we can choose exactly what content we want shown on our stage screen at any time, and we can set up multiple stage layouts to use throughout our presentation. You'll see that this stage layout is showing our current slide text and our next slide text, as well as a few different clocks and countdown timers. Let's select a text box and you'll see that this has linked text to our current slide, which means it's pulling all of the text from your current slide and putting it in this text box. We can reformat how this text looks by changing the font or any other formatting here, as well as changing text scaling properties, making your text as easy to read for people on stage. And down here, you'll see this linked text option where the source of that text box is set to our current slide text. We have a bunch of other options here, but you don't have to manually configure these. We can easily add new stage layouts by clicking the add icon to use any of the pre-built layouts. And then when you're done, to get back to your show, simply click on the show button. Next, let's create our first presentation. And presentations can be things like songs, teaching notes, or slideshows. And there's multiple ways that we can create new presentations. I'm going to quickly create a new song by copying text from a PDF that I downloaded from Planning Center. And you'll notice that this song contains verses and choruses. So let's copy that text, go back to ProPresenter, and go to File, Import, Text from Clipboard. Here you'll see options of how much text should be on each slide, what size this presentation is, and what theme we should use to format the text, as well as which library it's being saved to and if we want it automatically added to a playlist. Next, let's click Edit, and this will bring us to the Reflow Editor, which is a really great tool for editing large amounts of text like a song. Now, the first thing we're going to do is edit our title, and we can also edit information like the artist and insert our CCLI number here. Now, on the left side of the Reflow Editor, you'll see all of the text inside this presentation, and on the right side, you'll see what all of the slides look like. Now, ProPresenter has automatically recognized the different sections of our song and put them into groups. You can see one listed here for verse. Now, I actually want that to be verse 1, so I'm going to click on this drop down. I'm going to go to Group and change it to verse 1. This has changed the coloring for the group and added a hotkey for easy access. Now you can see that there's a little bit too much text on this slide, so we can easily fix that. I'm just going to add my cursor here, hit enter to insert a new line break. Then I'll add my cursor to the end of the line and insert a slide break. Now I'll go through and fix the rest of the song, and the reason that we're putting all of these different sections of the song into groups is so that we can use them in arrangements. And the power of arrangements is that you can have multiple arrangements using those same parts and pieces. Finally, let's add in 2 more slide breaks for 2 other groups. The first one is going to be my background group, and the last one will be my blank group. And then we can import our song. Now let's quickly add an arrangement. I'm going to click on the Arrangements button, and then I'm going to go over to this drop-down menu and add a new arrangement. Our first arrangement is going to be called Normal because this is the normal way we play this song. Now at the top you can see all the parts and pieces that we have available, and at the bottom is the arrangement that we're currently creating. I'm going to drag our background first, and we're going to do verse 1, verse 2, chorus. Then I'm going to add in a blank. Then we're going to do verse 3 2 times. Then we're going to add in a chorus. And then we'll add in another chorus. And then we have our tag, and then we'll have a blank slide at the end of the song. Now we can add in another arrangement by going back to the drop-down, New Arrangement, and I'm just going to call this one Chorus Only. And for this one, we're just going to remove some pieces, so we don't need these verses, we just need our chorus, and we don't need the background. We'll just put a blank at the beginning and at the end. So now we have this chorus only arrangement and our normal arrangement. Now let's add this presentation to a playlist. I'm going to hit the add icon here, and we're going to add a new playlist. We're going to call this Event. Now to quickly add this to a playlist, let's use search. You can also press Command or Control F on your keyboard. I'm going to search for Living, and then I can click and drag this into my playlist. I could also search for another song like Waymaker and add that in as well. Also, from this same search dialog box, we can add in songs from Song Select. So if you have a Song Select subscription, you can click on Song Select, and it will search the Song Select library, and you can add in songs right from there. Now let's add in Living Hope one more time, but we're going to add it in using a different arrangement. So I'm going to click back to our ProPresenter library search. I'm going to type in Living, and I'm going to grab Living Hope and bring it in. And I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to choose the arrangement. Instead of normal, I'm going to say chorus only. So now that one's using our chorus only arrangement, where this one is using our normal arrangement. Next, let's import some media into ProPresenter and add it to our song. At the bottom of ProPresenter, you'll see the media bin. Here we can add in new playlists, and we can rename them. Now let's import some media. So I'm going to move my interface over, I'm going to open up this folder, and then I'm going to click and drag and drop in all of these media files to import them. The other way that we can bring in media is through a smart playlist, which automatically brings in all of the media inside the folder and continually looks for new media being added. So we're going to click on Add and go to New Smart Playlist, and I'm going to choose Geometric for this one and hit OK. Next, let's add some media to a slide. So I'm going to select another playlist here. I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to just drag and drop it on that slide. Now we don't need to add this video background to every slide because it's playing back on the media layer layer, which is independent of the slide layer, which is the beauty of layers. I can start some content playing back to our media layer here, and then I can click on this slide with some slide content, and you'll see that my media layer continues to play as I click on other slides. Next, let's create another presentation for our announcements loop. So I'm going to go up to File, New Presentation, and we're going to call this Announcement Loop. Now we can quickly create an announcement loop by dragging some images in from a Finder window. So I'm going to go down here to my Announcements folder. I'm just going to click and drag all of these images and drop them right in my presentation. Now that we've added in all of these images, I can delete that first slide. We don't really need that. And then we can turn this into a slideshow that automatically goes from one slide to the next by clicking on the slideshow button, and we can choose a timer here. I'm going to choose a custom timer, and I'm going to set this to 2 seconds for this demonstration. Now all of these slides will switch after 2 seconds, and when it reaches the last slide, it will automatically loop back to the beginning. So if I click on this sent out slide here, after 2 seconds, it's going to go to our welcome slide. And then 2 seconds after that, it's going to loop back to the beginning and go to our 3 ways to give slide. And this is going to automatically advance until we tell it to stop. We can disable the auto advance by clicking here, or we can clear all. Now let's add that to our event playlist by going over here, and we're going to click and drag that to event. Finally, let's create one more presentation for our teaching notes. So I'm going to go to File, New Presentation. We're going to call this our event notes. And for this presentation, we're going to use a different theme. We're going to use one of the stock themes called Capture, and we're going to use this title slide. Now to edit this presentation, we're going to go click on Edit from the main toolbar, and we can edit this text. We're going to type in above all for our title, and now let's add in another slide. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to hit Add, and again we're going to go to Stock and Capture, and I'm going to click on General Points. Here we can add in point 1, point 2, and point 3. And over here in the Properties panel, you'll see we have a build option, and if we look at it, you'll see this comes with built-in build options to show those 1 point at a time. So let's click on Show to see how this works. This slide has some extra icons below it indicating that this is a multi-click slide. So when we click once, we'll see the background. When we click again, we'll see point 1, and then point 2, and then finally point 3. Let's go back and add one more with an underline reveal. So I'm going to go to Edit. We're going to add another slide. I'm going to go to Stock, Capture, and this time we're going to just use this general text slide. Then I'm going to add in some text that we can set to an underline reveal. Next, let's underline the text. So we're going to underline fears and worries and hopes. Now let's set a build option. So I'm going to click on Build, and I'm going to say Delivery by Underline. Currently this is set to cut, but I'm going to click on Change and set this to a dissolve. Now we can check this out by clicking on Show. I'll click on that slide. We'll see the background, then we'll see all of our text, and then fears, worries, and hopes. Next, let's use the built-in Bible feature to add some scripture to our teaching notes. Let's go to Bible in the main toolbar. You can find scripture using the drop-down menu or by typing it in here, or we could do a keyword search. Let's search for above all. I'm going to use this Colossians 3:14 passage by clicking on verse. If we want to change the translation, we can do that here, but I'd really like to change the theme this is using. So I'm going to go to Options, go to Theme, and I'm going to change to our stock theme of Capture, and I'm going to click on Scripture. Now to add that to our teaching notes, let's go down here to Save As, and we're going to copy it to our selected presentation, which is our event notes. So that's now been added to our event notes. So when we go back to Show, we can see them right here. Finally, let's add that to our event playlist. So I'm going to go over here. I'm actually going to right click on event notes, and I'm going to say Add to and select our event playlist. Now when we click on event, you can see our event notes are right here. Now let's organize our playlist, and we can use some headers to divide up our playlist into different sections. So on the left side in our playlist, I can click the add icon to add a new header. This header is going to be called pre-event. Then let's add 2 more, one for songs and another for our teaching. Then let's click and drag and put everything in the right order. I'm going to put my announcement loop here during our pre-event. I'm going to move my songs header down here. Then finally, let's move our teaching heading after our songs. Now we have a really organized and easy to view playlist. We can also right click on these and change the color of these headers to make them even more recognizable. Now let's see how easy it is to control your presentation, including controlling what content is sent to the new announcements layer. Now to show your presentation, simply click on any slide and in any order. So we'll click on some slides to send them live, and we can jump around to different slides in any order. We also have keyboard controls, so if we use the space bar, that'll advance to the next slide, as well as using the right arrow key. The left arrow key will send us back a slide, and the up and down arrow keys will change us between items in our playlist. So when I hit down on the keyboard, it's changed us to the next item in our playlist, and if I hit the right arrow key, it'll send me to the first slide in that item. I could go back up to Living Hope, and we also have options to use hotkeys to advance to different sections of this song. So if I use the S hotkey, it'll jump to verse 2, and if I use the C hotkey, it'll jump to the chorus. We could also, let's say, jump to this blank slide by typing in 22 and hitting enter, and it will auto advance to that blank slide. And also, because ProPresenter uses multiple layers, you can switch out your media on the fly. So I could change out this background by choosing a new background from my media bin, and that's changed out, and now we can continue clicking on our different slides in our song. Finally, let's learn how to control what content is being sent to the new announcements layer. First, we need to go up to Screens and to Edit Looks. Here we'll see all of the screens that we have set up and all of the layers that are currently enabled for each screen. I'm going to change our main output to only have the presentation, media, and slide layers enabled. And for our lobby screen, let's set it to get the announcements layer as well as the presentation, media, and slide layers. Now remember that announcements layer is above the presentation layer, so it can cover up the presentation layer content. Now we can tell a presentation to be sent to our new announcements layer. We do that by clicking on a presentation, and then we're going to go over here and click on the target icon to change the presentation destination from the default of presentation to our new announcements layer. Now if I click on some content, we're going to click on this song, you'll see on our main output that song starts playing back. But if I click on my announcements loop, you'll see nothing changes. That's because it's playing back on the announcements layer, which is not enabled for our main output. But if I click over to our lobby screen, you will see that slideshow showing up there. Now to show the content playing below there, all we need to do is clear the announcements layer, and on our lobby screen, we'll see our song playing back. Congratulations, you did it. You created your first presentation like a pro. Now remember, this is just the beginning. There are so many other amazing features, so make sure to check out all the in-depth tutorials at renewedvision.com/pro tutorials.